tale kicks off in the rugged, sprawling landscape of Kin Nui Mountain, where Toad Ridge clings dramatically to the heights like a smug monarch surveying its domain. Below it lay Toad Village, a settlement so abandoned it might as well have had tumbleweeds rolling through its empty streets. In this forlorn place, a man was recounting tales of their glory days to his equally disheartened companion. "Back when the old leader was alive," he said, voice tinged with nostalgia. "We were so powerful even the bandits feared us. But now, with him gone, the others ditched the new master faster than rats leaving a sinking ship. Just us two left. And the officers? They're coming soon to clean up the bandits. We can't defend ourselves, let alone survive. Better leave while we still can." His companion nodded grimly. Then, as if on cue, a man strutted out of a nearby house, his clothes draped across a pole like he was airing his grievances through his fashion choices. An 18-year-old kid as a leader? What were they thinking? He declared, voice dripping with disdain. "You all planning to bail on him too? Fine, get lost. I'll lead the exodus myself." He grinned, made a dramatic exit, and disappeared over the horizon. The remaining two shared a bemused glance before shrugging and following suit. Meanwhile, in the village's most intact building, Chongdale slumped into a wooden chair beneath a threadbare tiger-skin rug. His hand clutched his head as he winced at the flood of unfamiliar memories. "It hurts," he groaned. "What is this? Did I get transported to another world?" Not long ago, Chongdale had been an average university student, blissfully glued to his computer while playing Hearts of the Mountain Bandits. One moment, he was strategizing with headphones on. The next, he blacked out, only to wake up in this bizarre place. His current body and the memories it came with were merging in his head, creating a jumbled mess of confusion. The memories painted a bleak picture. Toad Village, once thriving, was now a sinking ship, and he'd inherited the title of village master after his father passed away. Dawu, the empire under which the village fell, had ruled both land and sea a century ago. Now it was a fading relic, plagued by constant wars that drove its people to the brink. Banditry was no longer a choice, it was a last resort. Toad Village had been a powerhouse under its old leader, but since his death, it had crumbled. Chongdale was convinced he was the last man standing. "Great," Chongdale muttered to himself. "A poor, abandoned village and an empty tiger skin. Just my luck." Suddenly, a hand clasped his shoulder, making him jump. Turning, he saw Zhu Shinji, Toad Village's self-proclaimed strategist. Chongdale was stunned someone had stayed. Overcome with gratitude, he grabbed Zhu Shinji's hand. "Thank you for staying. I'll never forget this favor," he declared. But Zhu Shinji blinked, looking puzzled. "Oh no, there's been a misunderstanding," he said with a grin. "I'm just here for the last of the resources, a skinny horse no one wants. Mind if I take it? Oh, and the tiger skin rug too? It's chilly out there." Chongdale stared at him, mouth agape, his spirit crumbling like a cookie. "Take it?" he croaked, slumping back into his chair. Zhu Shinji beamed as he rolled up the rug. "Thanks, boss. Linger. Grab the horseweir out of here," he called out before skipping off to join his partner. Chongdale watched them disappear into the distance, leaving him utterly alone in the eerie silence of Toad Village. As he sat there brooding, a strange symbol shimmered into existence behind him. Out of nowhere, a hand emerged from the glow and delivered a sharp smack to the back of his head. "Ow! What the dash?" Chongdale shot up, spinning around to confront his unseen assailant. But the world around him had transformed. Gone was the dilapidated village. In its place was a vast, pixelated expanse of floating sparkles. A figure materialized before him, a blonde woman with flowing hair and diamond-shaped antennae perched atop her head. Her cyan eyes sparkled with an almost otherworldly light as she smiled warmly at him. "Brave young man," she said, her voice lilting and melodic. "You finally arrived." Chongdale stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. What is going on here?" he stammered. The woman merely chuckled, her expression unreadable. It seemed his adventure was just beginning. Chongdale, wide-eyed and still reeling from the surreal scene, asked the blonde girl the obvious questions. "Who are you? And where am I?" The blonde girl smiled, her hand lifting to reveal a glowing blue diamond hovering just above her palm. "This," she said with a flourish, is the system's subspace. And me? I'm the spirit of the system, your personal guide. The diamond began to pulse with energy, rising above Chengdale's head as if it had a mind of its own. The spirit clapped her hands as if applauding his progress. Congratulations on opening hearts of the mountain bandits, young master. Before Chengdale could respond, the diamond erupted into a dazzling burst of light, flooding the space with radiant ripples. A blue screen materialized before him, displaying a loading bar. Chengdale squinted at the screen, his mind snapping back to memories of the game he'd been playing just before being hurled into this strange new world. As if reading his thoughts, the blonde girl nodded. Yes, that's exactly it. You're here because of that game. And now, I'm here to help you. Her tone, though sweet, carried an ominous weight. Your Toad Village is in bad shape. Barely anyone left, just you, a strategist and a groomer. Oh, and the horses, but they don't count as residents. Chengdale gawked at the screen, realization dawning. A system? I have a system. Excitement mingled with disbelief as a mission appeared on the screen. Objective: do not let the population drop to 1. Stop the villagers from leaving. The warning was clear. Failure meant the system would vanish. Suddenly, Chengdale was enveloped in a bluish glow, the spirit's voice taking on a more serious tone. Complete this mission, or regret it forever. There won't be a second chance. As the integration with the system continued, Chengdale felt beams of light pierce his body, filling him with an overwhelming energy. The spirit chuckled, calling him a boy brimming with potential, while gesturing to the screen. Another mission popped up, urging him to stop both the strategist and the groomer from abandoning the village. Chengdale frowned, unsure how to start. I'll try, but how do I leave this subspace? The spirit grinned mischievously. Oh, that's easy, she said before grabbing him by the collar and hurling him into the air like a sack of potatoes. There you go. Wait, what dash? Chengdale's scream echoed through the ether as he plummeted. His eyes watered, and his breath hitched as he landed with a jarring thud on the floor of his home. Drenched in sweat and trembling, he muttered, "Was that real, or just a nightmare?" A voice whispered in his ear, icy and unnerving. "Fail and you'll die." Fear seized Chengdale, his wide eyes darting around the room as sunlight streamed through the windows. Scrambling to his feet, he ran out of the house, calling for Zhu Xinji. "Zhu! Strategist Zhu!" His voice cracked with urgency as he raced into the forest, eventually spotting the man with his daughter and the horse. Desperate, Chengdale skidded to a stop, gasping for air. "Wait! Please wait!" Zhu Xinji turned, eyebrow raised. "Changed your mind, village master? Ready to take back your words?" Chengdale opened his mouth to respond but found himself distracted, his gaze locking onto Zhu's companion. The young woman stood confidently, her hand resting on her hip as she smirked. "Father, why are you even humoring him? Let's just leave," she said, her tone dripping with impatience. Flushing, Chengdale stammered, Who is this?" He turned to Zhu Xinji for an answer. "Oh, her? That's my daughter, Zhu Lingyi," the strategist replied casually. "She's in charge of the horses. I guess you've never met her." As Zhu Lingyi shot him an exasperated glance, Chengdale thought privately, "She's beautiful." Shaking off his distraction, Chengdale clutched Zhu Xinji's arm with uncharacteristic fervor. "Father Dash," he winced, quickly correcting himself. "I mean, strategist Zhu. I have an idea." Zhu Xinji raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "An idea, huh?" Chengdale nodded earnestly. "You've worked tirelessly for this village for years. Without you, it wouldn't even exist. I can't let you leave. You've contributed too much. Stay, please. The village needs you." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Zhu Xinji studied Chengdale, his expression unreadable, while Lingyi tapped her foot impatiently. Finally, Zhu Xinji sighed. "Fine. Convince me." Chengdale gritted his teeth. He had no idea how, but he knew he couldn't let the mission fail, not when his life was on the line. Zhu Xinji's face flushed with anger, assuming Chengdale had resigned himself to dying alongside them. But he steadied his voice and said calmly, "I'm not leaving because I'm old and useless. I'd only weigh you down." Chengdale, however, wasn't about to accept that. With fire in his eyes, he countered, If that's how you feel, then I absolutely can't let you go. As long as I'm alive, no one will go hungry. He leaned in, his tone growing serious. Besides, what village would take us in now? We're better off staying here and carving out our own path. Zhu Xinji sighed, exasperated. And how do you expect us to survive if we stay? Grinning, Chang Dale replied, What's there to be afraid of? Then, with a mischievous glint in his eye, he turned to Zhu. Hand me a weapon, I've got someone to rob. Zhu blinked in disbelief. Rob? Are you serious? Ignoring him, Chang Dale discreetly grinned, inwardly wondering what kind of reward the system might give him for completing such a bold move. Then his thoughts wandered to Zhu Linger, who had been watching silently. Trying to mask his blush, he inquired about her age, but his mind, already veering off track, began picturing himself as the dashing, overpowered protagonist from his past life. Linger's annoyed voice snapped him back to reality. She was hauling an enormous axe toward him, her expression unimpressed. Here, she said flatly. Chang Dale broke into a nervous sweat. This is my weapon? His dreams of a sleek sword or a legendary spear shattered as he stared at the unwieldy hunk of steel. Gripping it awkwardly, he tried to picture himself as a hulking giant with rippling muscles and an axe, but the image only made him feel like a woodcutter. Just then, a glowing blue pop-up appeared before him. Mission complete. Prevent Zhu Xinji and Zhu Linger from leaving. His reward? An axe skill book. The spirit of the system appeared out of nowhere, handing it to him with a playful smirk. Wasting no time, Chang Dale integrated the skill, his mind flooding with visions of perfect chops, precise swings, and the raw power of legendary axe techniques. Zhu Xinji watched him warily. It's dangerous to go alone, you know? Chang Dale stared blankly at him for a moment, leaving Zhu puzzled. Then, to his surprise, Chang Dale broke into a grin. That's why you're coming with me. What? Zhu Xinji balked, clearly caught off guard. With the axe slung over his shoulder and an air of mock seriousness, Chang Dale turned to Zhu. Got anything else to say? Zhu Xinji sighed. No, nothing at all. Good. Chang Dale grinned as he started leading the horse down the mountain. Zhu followed reluctantly, muttering to himself about the absurdity of it all. A new pop-up appeared. Mission. Successfully carry out a robbery before nightfall. The stakes? Success granted a shot at the system lottery. Failure meant death. Zhu Xinji's face paled as he read the screen. Village Master. He began, voice trembling. Call me boss. Chang Dale corrected with a sheepish grin. The duo trekked onward, the lush greenery of the mountain giving way to a breathtaking view of the setting sun. Chang Dale raised his axe triumphantly, striking a dramatic pose atop the horse as it reared on its hind legs. Against the orange glow of twilight, he let out a cowboy-style whoop. Unbeknownst to them, further down the winding road, a well-armed convoy was making its way through the mountains. Soldiers on horseback flanked a richly adorned carriage. Warrior Lin, one of the escort leaders, was chatting with another soldier. There are a lot of mountain bandits in this area. We should be careful, the soldier warned. Let them come. Warrior Lin boomed, gripping his spear. It's been too peaceful. I could use a good fight. The soldiers around him chuckled nervously as the group pressed on, escorting the Su family's lady to her wedding in Black Rock City. The mission was crucial, strengthening the Su family's ties to the city lord's household. Meanwhile, Chang Dale and Zhu Xinji stood at the edge of the road, watching the last rays of sunlight vanish. It's getting late, Zhu murmured. No one's coming. Let's try again tomorrow. But Chang Dale shook his head, determination etched on his face. They'll come. Moments later, Zhu's doubt was erased. The convoy appeared, their armor glinting in the fading light. Chang Dale smirked. There they are. Zhu Xinji's confidence wavered as he counted the armed soldiers. There are too many of them. Let's just retreat. But Chang Dale grinned defiantly, lifting his arm. Don't worry. If we die together. Great, Zhu thought sarcastically, wiping sweat from his brow. As the convoy approached the curve in the road, Chang Dale's plan took an unexpected turn. Zhu Xinji, clearly desperate, jabbed the horse's rear with a stick. The startled beast neighed in panic and bolted toward the convoy, dragging a wide-eyed Chang Dale with it. Toad Village is robbing you, Zhu shouted, running behind. Drop your valuables or flee if you don't want to die. The convoy soldiers exchanged incredulous looks as Chengdale's wild ride brought him hurtling closer. The lead soldier turned to Warrior Lin, shaking his head in disbelief. Is this guy serious? Lin, gripping his spear, grinned eagerly. Finally, some fun. Zhu Xinji walked away from Chengdale with tears in his eyes, muttering apologies. I'm sorry, village master, but I have a daughter to care for, to watch grow up. I'll burn incense in your memory. He quickened his pace, leaving Chengdale to face the armed convoy alone. Chengdale, still astride his nervous horse, boiled with anger. You traitor, he bellowed after Zhu. You not only abandoned me, but you also shouted to the entire world that I'm trying to rob them. His embarrassment only deepened as he recalled the nickname Zhu had thrown around, one that made him cringe inwardly. As the convoy approached, Chengdale tugged sharply on the reins, causing his horse to rear up dramatically before he managed to steady it. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. Now standing in full view of the soldiers, Chengdale found himself speechless and drenched in sweat. The soldiers stared at him, confused. One reached for his sword, incredulous that a single individual thought it wise to rob their well-armed group. Thinking fast or recklessly, Chengdale raised his palms slightly and said, "This is a misunderstanding. I'm not the Toad Village Master." Then, as if struck by a burst of inspiration or desperation, he clenched his fist and declared, "I'm Zhu Xinji, a scholar. Lay down your weapons and surrender if you value your lives." The soldiers exchanged bewildered glances. Instead of panicking, they burst into laughter. One soldier, struggling to contain himself, muttered, "He must want to die. Jumping off a cliff would have been less humiliating." "Enough!" barked Wang Yelta, silencing the raucous laughter. "Perhaps this fool doesn't know who we are. Listen, stranger. I suggest you think about your family and turn around before it's too late." Before Chengdale could respond, a dainty hand emerged from the carriage, pulling back a pink curtain. A striking woman with blue eyes and pink hair gazed out, curiosity flickering in her expression. Chengdale froze, mesmerized. "She's stunning," he thought, his mouth slightly agape. The system's spirit materialized above him, smacking him hard on the head. "Snap out of it, pervert," she scolded. "Focus on the task at hand." "Ow! Will you stop doing that?" Chengdale groaned, rubbing the growing lump on his head. The spirit sighed dramatically and opened a new pop-up, hidden mission. Rob someone's fiancée. She explained that the mission level was far beyond his current ability and that he could reject it. Chengdale deliberated, weighing his options. Hidden missions were rare, and the rewards were usually extraordinary. If he succeeded, he'd be one step closer to becoming a legendary bandit. Besides, the idea of securing such a beautiful wife wasn't unappealing. The spirit groaned, clearly exasperated. "You're just lusting after her, aren't you, idiot?" Ignoring the spirit's disapproval, Chengdale accepted the mission with a firm nod. "If I don't have the guts for this, how will I ever become a successful bandit?" Meanwhile, Warrior Lin sat astride his horse, watching Chengdale's antics with amusement. "Don't scare him off," he ordered his soldiers. "This one's got guts. I want to fight him one-on-one." The other soldiers cheered, eager to see Warrior Lin in action. "Don't kill him with one hit," one shouted. "Show us those famous skills of yours." Lin grinned confidently. "I'll go easy on him. Don't worry." The system's spirit opened another info box for Chengdale, highlighting Lin's identity. Name, Lin Xiaoyu. Specialty, piercing spear strikes. Hidden attribute, future hero potential. Chengdale approached Lin on horseback, his axe resting on his shoulder. "I've slain countless nameless men. Tell me your name, so I can remember it when I spare your life." Lin raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Lin Xiaoyu. And you? Are you the Toad Village Master or that so-called scholar, Zhu Xinji?" Caught off guard, Chengdale blurted out, "I'm Yong Chun E1. Lin tilted his head. "Yong Chun? There's no place like that among the 108 cities and 13 prefectures. That's a strange name." "Enough talk," Chengdale barked, raising his axe. "Your head is mine." He swung ferociously, but Lin deflected the blow with his spear, surprised by the sheer strength behind it. The two locked eyes, the tension palpable. Changdale swung again, this time with a fiery determination. The impact sent Lin tumbling from his horse, his spear spinning to the ground. Seizing the moment, Changdale spurred his horse forward, leaping down to kick the carriage driver aside. The pink-haired lady gasped in alarm. Striking the horse's rear with his axe, Changdale sent the carriage horse bolting in a wild frenzy, scattering the soldiers in its path. Chaos erupted as Wang Yulta screamed for his men to give chase. Despite their efforts, Changdale held tightly to the reins, steering the runaway carriage with an exhilarated grin. Behind him, Zhu Xinji, now safely back at Toad Village, sighed deeply. "Linger," he called wearily. "Your master has truly lost his mind this time." Zhu Xinji stumbled into Toad Village, his face drenched in sweat, and promptly ordered Ling Er to shut the gates. She turned to him, worry etched across her face. "Why are you alone? Where's the village master?" Throwing up his hands, Zhu Xinji huffed. "That fool! If I hadn't been smart enough to run for my life, you'd never see your father again." He began pacing, moaning dramatically as he lamented their dire circumstances. Ling Er tried to comfort him. "Dead people don't come back to life, father. You shouldn't be upset." "Who said I was upset about him dying?" Zhu Xinji shot back, clearly scandalized. "It's the horse. It was such a fine beast." Ling Er sighed, disappointment flickering in her eyes. "Anyway," Zhu continued, "this village isn't safe anymore. Start packing up everything valuable, especially the garlic in the kitchen. We'll need it." Meanwhile, Changdale was still clutching the reins of his runaway horse as the armed troops thundered after him. "Hurry up!" he screamed at the horse, his voice cracking with panic. Out of nowhere, the system's spirit appeared, floating lazily above his head. "Hey, you just earned a lottery draw for completing a mission. Want to spin the wheel now?" Changdale glared at her. "Now? Are you out of your mind? Can't you see I'm busy trying not to die?" The spirit smirked mischievously. "So what's it going to be? Whip the horse or spin the wheel?" "Both," Changdale barked, his frustration boiling over. "If I could whip you instead, I would." The spirit remained unbothered, giggling as she snapped her fingers. A comically oversized lottery machine materialized in midair. As the spirit slowly turned the crank, Changdale fumed. "Hurry up! Those soldiers are breathing down my neck." Finally, a glowing ball popped out of the machine. The spirit opened it with exaggerated flair. "Congratulations! You've earned a great unknown hunterkin man." Changdale blinked, stunned. "Wait, the lottery gives people? Where is he?" He scanned the rocky terrain around him, half expecting Kin Man to descend from the sky or burst out of a boulder. Changdale waved his finger like a magician. "I choose you, Kin Man." Nothing happened. The spirit watched him, visibly baffled. Changdale tried again, this time flailing his hands in dramatic gestures. "Come forth, mighty warrior. Respond to my call." Still nothing. Before he could embarrass himself further, a voice rang out from the distance. "Don't worry, village master. Kin Man is here." Changdale whipped his head around to see a tall figure with long brown hair and an X-shaped scar across his chest. Kin Man stood boldly, a massive spear in hand. Kin Man wasted no time. As Warrior Lin charged toward the carriage, Kin Man hurled his spear with incredible force, striking Lin's horse square in the mouth. The beast neighed in agony, blood spraying as it lost balance and toppled to the ground with Lin still on its back. Changdale gawked, amazed by Kin Man's raw strength. The soldiers froze, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Wang Yulta, sweating profusely, attempted to rally his men. "We're soldiers of Black Rock City. Surrender the girl, or we'll destroy this village." Kin Man sneered, swinging his spear with a flourish. The blade slammed into a nearby rock, ricocheting a shard that struck Wang square in the face, knocking out several teeth. "Get lost!" Kin Man roared. Terrified, Wang ordered a retreat. The soldiers fled, leaving Changdale and Kin Man victorious. Kin Man approached Changdale. "I'm here to work for you, village master." The system spirit popped up with a new info box detailing Kin Man's tragic backstory. His wife had been pursued by the leader of Black Rock City and, unwilling to be taken, had leapt to her death. Fueled by grief and rage, Kin Man had slain several guards before becoming a fugitive. Now he sought refuge in Toad Village. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Changdale and Kinman rode back to Toad Village on horseback. Zhu Shinji, still begrudgingly packing garlic, gawked as they arrived. "Village master? You're alive!" Changdale grinned smugly. "Of course. Did you think I'd let you off the hook that easily?" Zhu Shinji fell to his knees, bowing dramatically. "Forgive me. I've been a useless burden." Changdale smirked. "Oh, you've been plenty useful. I told those soldiers your name was Zhu Shinji. They'll be looking for you now." Zhu's jaw dropped. "You what?" His fists clenched, his body trembling with indignation as Changdale laughed. "Relax, old man. I need you. Get along with Kinman, and let's rebuild this village." As the group settled in, Changdale called the system spirit to check his mission rewards. She appeared with a flourish, whacking him over the head. "Call me System Goddess." Rubbing the new bump on his head, Changdale grumbled, "Fine, System Goddess." The spirit rewarded him with a hidden awakening skill. "Choose someone to unlock their hidden potential," she explained, her hands glowing with golden light. Changdale, still trying to process the unexpected reward, muttered, "Great, more surprises." But before he could decide, the village called for his attention once again. Zhu Shinji stood before Changdalai, who couldn't help but notice a shift in the strategist's demeanor, as if his hidden attributes had finally awakened, though their usefulness remained questionable. The Kin New Mountains lay shrouded in moonlight, their peaks basking in an eerie, serene glow. Elsewhere, the defeated armed soldiers had set up camp around flickering bonfires. Commander Wang sat hunched near the flames, his face a mask of irritation. He turned to one of his soldiers and demanded, "Do you want to live?" "Of course, Commander," the soldier replied, nodding frantically. "Then tell me how many bandits attacked us?" The men exchanged nervous glances before one of them stammered, "100, sir." Beads of sweat formed on his brow. 100. Wang's voice rose in disbelief. "I saw 300 with my own eyes." He launched into a dramatic account of their heroic stand against overwhelming odds. "We risked our lives, fought valiantly, and killed some of them, but Warrior Lin is missing, and Miss Su was abducted." His audience, sitting silently across the fire, nodded grimly. Wang then ordered his men to wrap themselves in bandages, faking wounds for their return to the city. "We'll demand reinforcements," he declared with theatrical resolve. Meanwhile, Warrior Lin brooded quietly by a separate fire, gripping his spear tightly. His face bore fresh cuts and bruises, but the weight of failure was heavier. "I failed Commander Huang. I failed Miss Su. I'll risk everything to make this right," he vowed silently. Back in Toad Village, the system goddess interrupted Changdalai's train of thought with a pop-out box. Zhu Shinji, now labeled as a famous lousy strategist, had a hidden talent for stupid tactics guaranteed to cause failure. Changdalai sighed. "Even with hidden talents, he's useless," he muttered. "What's wrong?" Zhu Shinji asked, oblivious. "Nothing," Changdalai said with a strained smile. "What do you want?" Zhu Shinji explained that he had spoken with the captive, Miss Su Yi, the young master of Black Rock City's fiancée. "Village master, you shouldn't have taken her. Our last leader crossed Black Rock City and paid the ultimate price. If they retaliate, we're done for." Ling Er appeared just then, balancing a bowl. "Dinner's ready," she announced. Gathering the group near a bonfire, Changdalai posed the question, "What do we know about Black Rock City?" Kinman leaned forward, his tone grim. "It's 150 miles away, ruled by Han Huji, a ruthless tyrant with 5,000 elite troops." Zhu Shinji threw his hands up in despair. 5,000 against 4. What's the point? Changdalai arched a brow. "What's your brilliant idea, then? Beg for mercy?" Zhu Shinji mumbled an apology, retreating into silence. To everyone's surprise, Kinman suggested an attack. "Instead of waiting for them to come to us, we strike first. There's a 70% chance we can capture Han Huji." Zhu Shinji leaned over to Ling Er, whispering, "We're doomed." Ling Er sniffled. "We're already dead." Changdalai dismissed their defeatist attitudes. "First, they won't send all 5,000 troops. Maybe 100 or 200 at most. Second, the distance gives us time to prepare an ambush." The system goddess appeared, her grin mischievous. "New mission unlocked. Defend Toad Village." Chung Dalai continued, his voice resolute. Third, my father died fighting them. Kin Man has his own reasons for revenge. If we don't fight now, we'll never live in peace. Kin Man nodded firmly. We secure the village, no matter what. Zhu Xinji explained the two paths leading to Toad Ridge, noting that the smaller route had a valley that made it unsuitable for carriages. Chung Dalai smirked. He'll choose the wrong path, guaranteed. Which way do you think they'll come? The main road, Zhu Xinji said confidently, puffing on his pipe. Good, Chung Dalai replied inwardly. We'll take the valley. When asked if they could win, Zhu Xinji hesitated before admitting, no, we'll be wiped out. Chung Dalai grinned. Perfect. We have a chance, then. Later, Chung Dalai entered Miss Su's room, finding her seated in silence. Offering her food, he said gently, You should eat something. Miss Su looked up, startled but defiant. All men are the same, she said bitterly. You're no different. Chung Dalai sighed. I captured you to lure out Han Huji. Once this is over, you'll be free. Liar, she hissed. He turned to the window, his voice softening. Do you think I wanted this life? I dreamed of being a scholar, of crossing seas, seeing the world. The moon shone brightly through the window, its light reflecting off the tears pooling in Miss Su's eyes as Chung Dalai's words hung in the stillness of the night. Under the pale moonlight casting a silvery glow over the Kin Nu Mountains, Chung Dalai's gaze darkened as he reflected on the greedy, power-hungry people he had encountered. Why is the world like this? He mused aloud. Why are people so easily swayed by greed? Miss Su sat quietly, her calm demeanor masking her confusion. Chung Dalai extended his hand toward her, his voice filled with conviction. I want to save this world, to give the people a chance to live in peace. Will you help me achieve this dream? Miss Su hesitated, her guarded eyes meeting his. You might be lying, she admitted, but somehow I feel like you wouldn't hurt me. I don't understand why I feel this way. She paused, then added, Tell me whatever you want. As long as you don't harm me, I'll do my best to comply. Chung Dalai sat silently for a moment before settling near the table. Tell me about this world, he said softly. It was perhaps the only sincere statement he had made since entering her room. Time passed as Miss Su explained fragments of her world, revealing she was the daughter of a merchant. Chung Dalai listened intently, nodding occasionally as her words painted a picture of the struggles she had endured. When he finally rose to leave, he cupped his fist respectfully and bid her farewell. As the glow of a candle flickered in the room, Miss Su picked up a book and recited a poem. With a sword in hand, the ambitious man, to rescue the people of the occupied land. Miss Su pondered the Wu Hook, a legendary weapon, and the empire of 13 prefectures from which her ancestors hailed. These words, she thought, are beautiful lies, but they could astonish everyone at the talent poem meeting. Outside, Kin Man stood silently, his presence drawing Chung Dalai's attention. Surprised, Chung Dalai asked, What are you doing here? Do you always eavesdrop on private conversations? Kin Man cupped his fists, his voice solemn. At first, I thought you were no better than those filthy bandits. But after hearing you speak, I realized you have a dream worth following. I'll risk my life to help you achieve it. The system goddess appeared with a pop-out box. Congratulations! You've completed Kin Man's hidden mission. By treating Suing with respect, you've earned his loyalty. Kin Man has always harbored pain over losing his wife and children. Had you mistreated her, he'd have been the first to kill you. Chung Dalai folded his arms, reading the screen thoughtfully. Abducting Miss Su, it wasn't so different from what the Black Rock City leader did. Gaining Kin Man's loyalty wasn't just luck, it was a delicate balance of trust. The next morning, Ling Er burst into the room, breathless. Village Master, someone is attacking the village. Chung Dalai shot up in alarm. Already? How many are there? Blushing, Ling Er stammered. Just one. He has a spear, and he's kind of handsome. Outside, Warrior Lin sat astride his horse, bellowing, Dirty bandits, face your demise. If you've harmed Miss Su, I'll kill you all. Chung Dalai and his crew stepped outside. Scratching his head, Chung Dalai muttered, This idiot came alone? He waved lazily. Kin Man, chase him away. As Kin Man approached, Warrior Lin called out, Bring your weapon. I won't take unfair advantage. Kin Man smirked. No need. In a blur, Kin Man leaped high, landed on Lin's horse's head, and grabbed Lin's face with his bare hand. Warrior Lin froze, dumbfounded. You're weak, Kin Man declared, raising his hand. Let me go, Lin yelled, flailing. Kin Man hurled him off the horse, sending him flying into the trees. Lin tumbled to the ground, shouting, I'll be back. Watching Lin's retreat, Chang Dalai sighed. Don't harass him when he returns. Let him take his horse. Kin Man nodded. As you command, village master. Suddenly, the system goddess appeared, presenting Chang Dalai with a golden-lined chest. Congratulations! You've defended the village. Chang Dalai stared at the reward screen, bewildered. That was it? Shouldn't this mission have been harder? The goddess smirked. Bug or no bug, it's not my problem. Just take the rewards. The rewards poured in. A metal spear, upgraded horses, healing effects within the mountain, 10 farming lands, and more. Chang Dalai rubbed his sore legs, muttering, It's like killing an ant and winning the lottery. Moments later, the goddess appeared again. New mission. Defend against the second attack. The difficulty level exceeds your current power. Chang Dalai grimaced. The real battle is coming. Meanwhile, Warrior Lin, battered but determined, climbed back up the mountain. Zhu Xinji grumbled. Let's kill him this time. Chang Dalai glared at him. You idiot. Lin is our benefactor. No one's killing him. As Lin shouted taunts from afar, Chang Dalai called out cheerfully, Are you hungry? Want to come in and eat? Our food's pretty good. Zhu Xinji's jaw dropped in confusion. Lin planted his spear in the ground. Enough nonsense. Come at me. Chang Dalai sighed, ordering Kin Man. Don't kill him. Be gentle. Kin Man nodded. Understood. Moments later, Kin Man launched a single strike, sending Lin flying again. Chang Dalai jogged over. Are you okay? Rest up and come back when you're better. The system goddess reappeared, rewarding Chang Dalai with a mountain spring, healing pills, bonus village skills, and more. Chang Dalai couldn't help but grin. If the rewards keep coming like this, I might just survive. Under the glowing amber hues of a fading sun, Chang Dalai sat back, unimpressed by the cascade of rewards the system had presented him. Mediocre, he muttered, staring at the list that paled in comparison to his earlier spoils. Meanwhile, Warrior Lin trudged up the steep path toward Toad Village, leaning heavily on a wooden staff. His disheveled appearance triggered yet another defense mission, the third one in as many days. When he reached the village gates, Chang Dalai greeted him with a raised eyebrow. You okay, Lin? Not until Miss Su is free, Lin growled, his face battered with bumps and bruises, several teeth conspicuously missing. Despite his condition, his resolve was unshaken. I'll keep coming back, he declared. Chang Dalai sighed, waving Kin Man over. Be gentle this time. With a single, restrained punch, Kin Man knocked Lin flat, completing the third defense mission. The rewards poured in once more, but it wasn't over. Lin returned again, each appearance triggering yet another mission and another set of rewards. By the 10th defense, Ling air tugged at Chang Dalai's sleeve, pouting. Can we go inside now? I'm hungry. Not yet, Chang Dalai replied, eyes fixed on the horizon. He's not done with me. As the system goddess materialized, a pop-up box announced a hidden attribute Chang Dalai had unlocked, an aura of charisma that increased loyalty among males but was entirely ineffective on females. She explained that his kind-heartedness would draw righteous warriors to his side, especially idealistic youths. Chang Dalai groaned. Why do I have to be the nice guy? Still, he couldn't shake his concern. Warrior Lin's absence lingered too long, and Chang Dalai found himself worrying. Did something happen to him? He wondered aloud. Against the protests of his companions, he ventured down the mountain to search. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Chang Dalai found Warrior Lin standing at the edge of a cliff, gripping his wooden staff with trembling hands. Tears streaked his face as he stared into the abyss. I wanted to be a hero, Lin whispered to no one in particular. To save the world, create peace. But look at me, humiliated, weaponless, horseless. A frog in a well. He sobbed, vowing to die for his failures. From behind, Chang Dalai coughed loudly. Pick one, he quipped. making Lin spin around in rage. "Don't mock me, you bastard bandit," Lin snarled. "I'd rather die than be humiliated by the likes of you." Chung Dalai raised a hand to cut him off. "I heard what you said," he began, his tone calm but cutting. "You're a young fool who thinks dying for his dreams is brave. But a real man? He lives for his dreams, no matter how hard it gets." Lin faltered, surprised by the words from someone he viewed as a bandit. "Suicide isn't bravery," Chung Dalai pressed. "It's cowardice running from reality. How dare you call yourself a warrior?" Lin's shoulders slumped. "I don't know anymore." Chung Dalai softened. "You hate bandits. I get it, but I wasn't always this way. I had dreams, too. Dreams of literature, titles, and crossing seas. But the world's greed crushed those dreams." He extended a hand. "I want to rebuild this world, to save it. Will you help me?" Lin stared at him, stunned by the sincerity in Chung Dalai's voice. As his vision blurred, Lin thought he was dreaming. "How can a man with such a righteous dream be a bandit?" he murmured before collapsing into unconsciousness. Catching Lin before he hit the ground, Chung Dalai carried him back to the village. He ordered Zhu Shinji to fetch medicine, only to be told the supplies had been stolen long ago. "What if he's a spy?" Zhu questioned. "I trust him," Chung Dalai replied simply. To treat Lin's injuries, Chung Dalai used the system's blood oil. He summoned Ling Air to bring a shovel and hoe. Zhu Shinji was perplexed. "What are you planning, village master?" "Treasure hunting," Chung Dalai said. Reluctantly, Zhu Shinji joined the search, skeptical of finding anything valuable. But their efforts bore fruit. A blood pill to heal Lin, a hidden military drum among rocks, and an old, dusty flag under a table. Ling Air found a pristine metal spear along the road, while a long dry well began spewing fresh water, much to everyone's astonishment. Chung Dalai handed the spear to Qin Man, who was overwhelmed with gratitude. "I've dreamed of wielding a spear like this," Qin Man said, his voice reverent. A pop-up box declared Qin Man the top bandit of Toad Village, his Plum Blossom spear skill upgraded to a masterful level. The system goddess appeared with an extensive list of rewards: weapons, armor, farmland, a mountain spring, and more. But Chung Dalai's disappointment was palpable. "Still no sword for my dream of becoming a Myram swordsman?" He sighed. Hopeless. Even as the rewards piled up, Chung Dalai's thoughts drifted back to Lin. Is he the ally I need to turn this village into something greater, or will he be the spark that burns it all down? Beneath a haystack that had gone unnoticed for years, Zhu Shinji uncovered a hidden entrance. As he pried it open, Chung Dalai followed him down creaky wooden stairs into a basement that seemed untouched by time. Before them lay a stack of 50 wooden boxes piled high, the air thick with the scent of dust and secrecy. "Think these are the old master's savings?" Zhu Shinji asked, his voice tinged with curiosity as he stepped closer to the stash. Chung Dalai shrugged. "Let's find out." He gestured for Zhu Shinji to open one of the boxes. Both men's eyes glinted mischievously, a crimson sheen of greed reflecting in the dim light. As Chung Dalai cracked open the first box, a burst of light erupted, flooding the basement. Memories of pulling rare items in gacha games danced in his head. Famous beasts, beautiful girls, legendary weapons. His excitement fizzled, however, as the contents revealed themselves. A box full of stones. The system goddess appeared with a cheerful thumbs up. "Better luck next time," Chung Dalai growled, holding up a rock. "Trash." Zhu Shinji offered to open the next box, but Chung Dalai waved him off. "Your luck's probably worse than mine." Ignoring the jab, Zhu Shinji cracked open another box, only to find a strange black substance. "Is this edible?" he asked. Chung Dalai examined it and sighed. "Gunpowder." By the time all 50 boxes were opened, the inventory looked grim. 10 boxes of gunpowder, 20 of useless stones, and piles of broken weapons and torn clothes. The system goddess gleefully displayed it all on a pop-up screen. Chung Dalai's mood shifted as an idea formed. The gunpowder and mountain roads might just give us a chance against Black Rock City. He instructed Zhu Shinji to keep the boxes intact, warning him about their potential importance. Zhu Shinji, however, eyed the wood hungrily. "Firewood for the winter. You break any of these, you're fired," Chung Dalai snapped. Shaking his head, Zhu Xinji led Chang Dalai to the back hill, where he explained the village's field had been left to rot for years. Despite his complaints about the late hour, Chang Dalai insisted on bringing Qin Man and Ling Er along to check it out. As they reached the field under a full moon, Zhu Xinji pointed out, "I threw some wheat seeds here last spring, but it's a wasteland. Nothing grows in a place like this." To their shock, the field was lush with golden wheat swaying gently in the breeze. Zhu Xinji's jaw dropped. "God bless us," he exclaimed, stepping into the field in awe. Ling Er, scolded for running through the sprouts, pouted but quickly brightened. "Let's harvest and make pancakes." "Don't waste it," Zhu Xinji scolded. "Elm leaves first, pancakes later." Qin Man calculated quickly. "If we harvest this 1,000-pound yield, we'll survive the winter. The straw can keep us warm, but we need to act fast before the rains come." As Zhu Xinji and Ling Er knelt to thank the heavens, Chang Dalai stood at a distance, reflecting. Not all bandits are evil. Some are just trying to survive this war-torn era. He thought of the young and old bandits alike, some tilling fields, others trading necessities in nearby towns. Even Zhu Xinji had once been a village scholar. Chang Dalai smirked as he recalled the man's story of luring a bully who harassed Ling Er, slaughtering the family's prized hen to play the gracious host, only to behead the drunk bully by the end of the night. The one time Zhu Xinji's schemes worked. Ling Er tugged at her father's sleeve, eager to harvest more wheat. Zhu Xinji shook his head, insisting they savor the moment under the moonlight. Back in Toad Village, Chang Dalai inspected a faded gray flag with red stripes. "This is ours?" he asked Zhu Xinji, noting its shabby state. Zhu Xinji grinned. "It's the heavenly toad swallowing the moon. Definitely not an egg." Chang Dalai smirked, handing the flag to Qin Man. "Hang it up." With a powerful leap, Qin Man scaled the roof and hoisted the flag. The symbol of Toad Village fluttered in the night breeze as Qin Man rejoined the group. The system goddess appeared with a sly grin. "With this flag, heroes who hear of your battles will flock to join you." She unveiled a new mission: increase the mountain's population to 100. Reward: 1 lottery draw. The scene shifted to the city lord's mansion. Commander Wang knelt before the city lord, sweat dripping as he recounted his failure. "The bandits at Toad Ridge call themselves Yuan from Yongchun," Wang sobbed. "There were hundreds of them. I tried to protect the young master's fiancée, but they overwhelmed us. I deserve death." The city lord sat in cold silence before nodding. "Kill him." Wang's wails echoed through the silent hall as his fate was sealed. Back in Toad Village, Chang Dalai stood beneath the moonlit flag, the wheat fields stretching out behind him. The battle for survival had only just begun. The city lord's tea was halfway to his lips when a voice from behind the crimson curtain interrupted. "Wait!" A young man stepped forward, his expression tense and determined. It was the city lord's son. "Father, allow me to lead the troops to Toad Ridge and rescue Miss Sue," he pleaded. The city lord rolled his eyes, dismissing the request with a wave. "She's just a woman. I'll find you another." But the young man knelt, bowing his head and pressing his hands together. "If I cannot protect my wife, I cannot call myself a man. Please, let me lead the troops." The city lord sighed and gestured for more tea as he asked how many soldiers his son wanted. When the young man confidently demanded 2,000 troops, the city lord nearly spat out his drink. The advisor sitting nearby objected. "Young master, 2,000 soldiers would require a massive amount of food, horses, and supplies. It's overkill. There are barely 300 bandits." The young man stood firm, insisting on overwhelming force. 200 cavalry, 200 archers, 300 swordsmen, 100 armored knights, and 200 spearmen. It's a perfect strategy. The cavalry will chase the runners, the archers will provide support, the armored knights will block charges, and the rest will finish them off. It'll be a cakewalk. The city lord studied his son for a moment before chuckling. "This is the dream of a boy who has always wanted to lead troops. Fine, you may have 1,000 men." As his son walked away, the city lord turned to Commander Wang. "You'll accompany him. Redeem yourself." Commander Wang bowed deeply, muttering inwardly that perhaps being executed would have been the easier option. Once they had left, the city lord consulted strategist Bai. "What do you think of my son's plan?" Bai frowned. "Cavalry and armored knights are useless in the mountains. The young master's plan is riddled with flaws. The city lord nodded. I know, but let the boy play general. There are number 300 bandits left on that ridge, and with 1,000 men, he can't possibly lose. He waved dismissively. Now let's enjoy ourselves. Strategist Bai, you've never known true joy until you've tasted these pleasures. Bai was speechless as the city lord disappeared with his entourage of young women. In Toad Village, Chang Dalai sat cross-legged on the floor, maps spread out before him. How does Black Rock City manage to feed 5,000 soldiers with only 20,000 citizens? He asked Miss Su, who sat across from him. They draw troops from military households, she explained. If the conflict is big enough, civilians are drafted. By Han Chuan, their strategist, once planned to train a standing army of 500, but it was scrapped due to resource constraints. By Han Chuan, Chang Dalai raised a brow. He oversees everything inside and outside the city. A brilliant man, Miss Su replied. Chang Dalai stood, gathering the maps. Sounds like Black Rock City has a terrible ruler. Miss Su scoffed. Could you do better? I don't know, Chang Dalai admitted. Miss Su sighed. You should run. There are only 4 of you, and they'll send at least 200 soldiers. Chang Dalai grinned. 5 now. Warrior Lin's with us. And we're not running. We're defending against 500 if we have to. Later, Chang Dalai found Warrior Lin near the cottages. How's the body holding up? Warrior Lin hesitated. You're asking, as my village master? Chang Dalai extended a hand. No, as someone who shares your ideals. Lin clasped his hand. For a moment, they stood in silence. For our ideals, they agreed. Under the shade of a tree, Chang Dalai addressed Zhu Xinji, who was munching on bread. I have an important task for you. Could determine our survival. Zhu Xinji waved him off. Find someone else. Chang Dalai insisted. This task can only be completed by my one and only strategist. When Chang Dalai revealed the plan to inform rival bandit groups about the impending attack, Zhu Xinji was indignant. You want me killed? You'll have Warrior Lin with you, Chang Dalai said, winking. And if you don't return, I'll take care of Ling Air. Also, I'll plaster your erotic drawings all over Black Rock City. Zhu Xinji paled, horrified. The next morning, Zhu Xinji sat atop a haystack in a wagon, seething silently as Warrior Lin steered the horses. Behind them were jars of wine to bribe the bandit leaders. As they disappeared down the mountain path, Kin Man turned to Chang Dalai. Do you think they'll trust him? Chang Dalai smirked. They don't have to. The chaos will work in our favor either way. Chang Dalai frowned, his brow furrowed in frustration as he scanned the box of gunpowder loaded with gravel and straw. It wasn't perfect, but it was what they had. Carefully, he added oiled cotton lines as a fuse, sealing the box with precision. Taking a deep breath, he turned to Kin Man, who stood ready with a red flag in his hands. This is the last test, Chang Dalai declared, waving the flag. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for future parts. Kin Man, with a mighty heave, hurled the box down the slope. Seconds later, a fiery explosion erupted, shaking the ground and sending black smoke billowing into the sky. Kin Man watched in awe. The breath of an earth dragon, he exclaimed. No, Chang Dalai corrected with a grin. This is the art of explosion. Meanwhile, outside the gates of Black Rock City, rows of troops gathered under the blazing sun. The young master stood on an elevated stage, his hair and robe flowing dramatically in the breeze. Clear skies an excellent omen, he announced proudly. The soldiers, drenched in sweat, murmured their disagreement. Excellent omen, my foot. One whispered to Uncle Wong, an older soldier. Why are you here, anyway? You're turning 60 this year. Uncle Wong sighed, shushing him. Quiet down. It's just a few bandits, nothing to worry about. The young master, oblivious to the murmurs, picked up his sword and strode to a nearby soldier. Placing the blade against the man's neck, he asked, Are you happy? The soldier stammered in confusion. Happy. The young master smirked. Good. In ancient times, generals sacrificed a man before going to war. Congratulations, you've been chosen. Wait, you're joking, the soldier pleaded, panic in his voice. But the young master wasn't joking. In a swift motion, he slit the soldier's throat. As the man fell, Choking on his last breath, the young master declared, "Rest in peace. Your name will be glorified forever." The troops remained calm, though rage simmered beneath the surface. "Idiot!" someone muttered as they mounted their horses and prepared to march. As the troops made their way toward the mountains, the young master lounged in his luxurious carriage, shaded by an umbrella with a bowl of fruit at his side. Commander Wang rode alongside him, visibly sweating. "Why aren't you leading the charge?" Wang asked cautiously. The young master leaned back. "I'm not a grunt. I command troops, not wield swords. My brain is my greatest weapon." Wang wiped his brow, nodding nervously. "Of course, young master." The young master continued, "True generals stay in camp while their soldiers win battles for them. That's leadership." Wang stared, speechless, as dust kicked up from the marching troops. Back in the city, strategist Bai Han Chuan barged into the city lord's chambers, where the latter was preoccupied with his entourage of young women. "My lord," Bai began, "I'm uneasy about the young master. He's been gone for a day. Let me take 100 men to ensure his safety." The city lord waved him off. "Do as you please, but don't disturb me." Bai nodded and quickly organized a cavalry unit. 100 riders gathered and set off, the thunder of hooves echoing as they disappeared into the distance. By dusk, the young master's troops had reached the base of the mountains. Commander Wang advised a rest, but the young master scoffed. "Speed is essential. What if the bandits attack while we rest?" Wang argued. "The men are exhausted. Some can barely stand." "Then they're not fit for war," the young master retorted. "This fatigue is nothing compared to death. They must endure." At a crossroads, a soldier on horseback approached. "There are 3 paths ahead: the official road, the mountain road, and the valley road. Which do we take?" Commander Wang urged the official road, silently praying the young master wouldn't choose otherwise. The young master unfolded a war scroll, pondering aloud. "The bandits expect us to take the official road. They'll have set traps. We'll take the mountain road." Wang's face twitched with frustration as the column adjusted its course. In the bushes above, a bandit watched silently. Seeing the 1,000-strong force, he muttered to himself, "Toad Village was right." He sprinted to the Flying Tiger Village to report. Bursting into their leader's hall, he announced, "The rumors are true. 1,000 troops are coming, but they're not heading here, they're attacking Toad Village." The bandits murmured among themselves, puzzled. "Why send so many troops for 4 or 5 people?" one asked. Gao Feihe, the Flying Tiger leader, scratched his chin. "We'll wait and see. Without our strategist, it's better to observe for now." As the troops moved through a narrow valley, Cheng Dalai and Zhu Xinji watched from above. Zhu Xinji counted the soldiers, his voice trembling. "At least 1,000. Village master, we have to retreat." Cheng Dalai shook his head. "Retreat isn't an option. We'll fight as planned." Behind them, logs were tied to the cliff's edge, ready to drop. Cheng Dalai outlined the plan. "When they're in the valley, we release the logs. Lin will fire the explosives. Zhu Xinji, Qin Man, and Ling Er toss the gunpowder boxes." Zhu Xinji, ever skeptical, asked, "Why only block one side of the valley? Why not trap them completely?" Cheng Dalai explained, "Cornered people fight harder. Leave them a way out, and they'll lose their will to fight." As the soldiers marched below, Zhu Xinji gulped. "What if they don't take the bait?" "They will," Cheng Dalai replied, his voice steady. "And if they don't, we adapt." The stage was set, and the battle for Toad Ridge was about to begin. Cheng Dalai wiped the sweat from his brow. His nerves frayed as he barked orders. "Hold! Wait for the signal!" He glanced down at the chaos below, his hand trembling on the axe handle. The enemy cavalry had moved out of the kill zone, but the bulk of the troops were still in place. "Do it now!" he roared, swinging his axe to sever the rope holding back the logs. The cut was clean, and the massive logs tumbled down the mountainside with a thunderous roar. Screams erupted as soldiers and horses alike were crushed under the weight. Dust and splinters filled the air as the Black Rock City troops struggled to regroup. "Light it!" Cheng Dalai ordered Warrior Lin, pointing to the pre-buried explosives. Warrior Lin froze, the torch quivering in his hand. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his temples. "There are too many of them," he stammered. Chung Dalai's patience snapped. He grabbed Warrior Lin by the collar and slammed him against a tree. "Bastard!" he snarled, his voice thick with fury. "This is war. It's not a playground. It's kill or be killed." Warrior Lin flinched as Chung Dalai shoved the torch into his hand. "If we let them go, we're dead. All of us." Chung Dalai lit the explosives himself, and the mountainside erupted in fiery chaos. Boulders rained from the cliffs, crushing soldiers and scattering the survivors. The enemy's screams echoed as panic spread through their ranks. "They're blocking the exit!" someone shouted, the terror palpable as another explosion ripped through the valley. Flames licked the sky, and soldiers scrambled to escape. Dust and smoke choked the air as bodies littered the ground. Amid the chaos, Kin Man rode his black horse into the fray, his spear a blur of motion. "You shall not pass," he bellowed, piercing the chest of an oncoming swordsman. Blood sprayed as the soldier tumbled from his horse, his final thought lamenting his exhaustion. Kin Man fought fiercely, holding the line as the remaining soldiers faltered. Behind him, Chung Dalai strategized. "Zhu Shinji, light the next set of explosives. Ling Air, Warrior Lin keep throwing." Kin Man's relentless attacks disoriented the enemy, but a few managed to break through. Flames erupted behind them, and terrified cries of "ghosts" filled the air. The young master, perched in his carriage, watched in disbelief as his troops fled in all directions. He stood, gesturing dramatically. "No one retreats. Cross that line, and you die." His commands fell on deaf ears. Soldiers trampled each other in their desperation to escape. The young master's carriage wobbled violently as the wheel broke, toppling it to the ground. Commander Wang galloped over, shouting, "We've lost. Flee while you can." The young master, ever delusional, handed Wang his sword. "Take this. Learn from this defeat, and one day you'll rise victorious." Wang's patience snapped. A rock struck his head, and he shoved the young master off his horse. "Die on your own, you idiot," he spat before fleeing. On the cliff, Chung Dalai knelt, his eyes scanning the battlefield below. He watched the fleeing soldiers with a critical eye. Once one runs, the rest follow. A domino effect. Zhu Shinji approached eagerly. "Village master, we've won." Chung Dalai rose, dusting himself off. "Let's finish this." They climbed onto a carriage, Zhu Shinji taking the reins while Chung Dalai and Warrior Lin stood ready with weapons. "Ling Air the drum," Chung Dalai commanded. Ling Air struck the drum with fervor as the carriage rolled onto the battlefield. Chung Dalai shouted, "Those who dismount will be spared. Leave your horses or face death." Kin Man continued his assault, spearing soldiers with ease as others fled in panic. Horses were abandoned in the chaos, and Chung Dalai's team collected them methodically. With the enemy routed, Chung Dalai turned to Zhu Shinji. "Take the horses back to the stables. Warrior Lin with me. We're going sword hunting." Not far from the battlefield, another group of bandits gathered in the shadows. They watched as the valley smoldered, flames licking the cliffs and black smoke curling into the twilight sky. "What a mess," one muttered, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. The leader of the group stepped forward, his eyes gleaming. "Let's see what Toad Village is really made of." The embers of battle still burned, but the next storm was already brewing. As the tension simmered between the Toad Village and Flying Tiger bandits, Gao Fei, who, the Flying Tiger leader, stood confidently among his men. His sword gleamed in the sunlight as he exchanged words with Zhu Shinji, who was clearly out of his depth. "How could Toad Village hold off 1,000 soldiers?" one bandit whispered, his disbelief etched across his face. Gao Fei, who shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe they got help from an expert." Another bandit scolded the doubter. "Stop sighing. You're a mountain bandit, not some philosopher. Stick to the job." With a sharp order, Gao Fei, who rallied his men. "Enough chatter. Time to collect what's ours." The Flying Tiger bandits descended on the remnants of the Black Rock City soldiers, stripping them of weapons, armor, and dignity. One bandit demanded boots for himself, while another wrestled pants off a soldier who begged, "Please, I'm not into men." "Idiot!" the bandit snapped, yanking the pants free. "I just need your clothes." Meanwhile, Chung Dalai galloped after the fleeing young master of Black Rock City, axe in hand. "Stop running and give me your sword," he bellowed. The young master screamed as he spurred his horse faster, only to skid to a halt at the thunderous sound of hooves. A column of elite soldiers emerged, led by none other than by Han Chuan, Black Rock City's strategist. Chang Dalai froze, pulling his horse into the bushes. His sharp eyes studied the approaching troops, marveling at the strategist's commanding presence. "Reinforcements? So soon?" he muttered. The young master raced toward by Han Chuan, crying, "Save me! They bullied me!" Bai Han Chuan silenced him with a single, decisive strike, plunging his sword into the young master's throat. The young master fell to his knees, blood gurgling from his lips as he pleaded for his life. "Clean this up," Bai Han Chuan ordered coldly, motioning for his men to collect the corpse. From his hiding spot, Chang Dalai stared in awe as a pop-up box appeared in his vision. The system goddess provided details about Bai Han Chuan, a 52-year-old top strategist with the skill 7 sword slashes and no hidden attributes. Kin Man may be a powerhouse, Chang Dalai mused, but a top strategist? That's a different league entirely. Bai Han Chuan's sharp eyes scanned the bushes, sending Chang Dalai diving deeper into cover. With no further action, Bai ordered his men to retreat, leaving Chang Dalai both relieved and frustrated. "Why leave now?" Chang Dalai muttered, kicking a rock. "And why take the sword I wanted?" A pop-up box announced the successful completion of the 11th defense mission, rewarding him with a lottery draw. The system goddess emerged with a dramatic flair, lamenting her return from a torturous small black room. Chang Dalai barely hid his irritation. "You're back to hit me again, aren't you?" With a wooden gavel in hand, the system goddess smirked. "What do you think?" The news of Black Rock City's failed assault spread quickly across Kin New Mountain. Nearby bandit factions were abuzz, none more so than the Flying Tiger bandits, who had plundered the spoils of war. Linger, cheerfully riding a white horse under the clear morning sky, called out, "Father, isn't this like a dream?" Kin Man followed behind with a quiet grin. Zhu Xinji busied himself, gathering swords from the battlefield. Their peace was interrupted by Gao Fei Hu and his bandits. "Old man Zhu," Gao Fei Hu called mockingly. "Why not share the bounty?" Linger snapped. "We earned these horses with our own skill. Why should we share?" "Linger, quiet," Zhu Xinji hissed, but his daughter refused to back down. Gao Fei Hu's demeanor darkened. "We worked just as hard. If you won't split it willingly." One of his men charged forward, demanding the white horse. Before he could act, "A divine technique," he declared, raising his hand toward the clear sky. "I can summon thunder." The bandits glanced up nervously, the sun glaring back at them. Chang Dalai repeated the claim, pointing dramatically. "Thunder!" Nothing happened. The Flying Tiger bandits jeered. "Liar!" As they charged to strike him down, a deafening explosion shook the ground. Flames and debris erupted, scattering the bandits. Some were struck by flying rocks and tumbled from their horses, clutching their heads in terror. Chang Dalai sat perfectly still on his horse, hiding the wild thrum of relief coursing through him. He bellowed, "Who's next? Who wants a taste of my thunder?" The bandits gawked, stunned into submission. Even Gao Fei, who seemed rattled, wondering if the rumors of divine power were true. Chang Dalai seized the moment. "Move aside," he commanded, his voice unwavering, "or taste thunder again." Scrambling in fear, the bandits parted. As Chang Dalai rode past, he chanted the word thunder for effect. "Wait," Gao Fei Hu called, making Chang Dalai's stomach flip. "Did he see through me?" Chang Dalai turned, his composure intact. "What is it?" "You have too many horses," Gao Fei Hu said slyly. "Can you even feed them all?" Chang Dalai smirked, his sarcasm razor-sharp. "If we can't feed them, we'll eat them." With that, he trotted off, leaving Gao Fei Hu and his bandits to stew in silence. Back at Black Rock City, the night was heavy with tension. In his candlelit chamber, the city lord lounged among young women, fruit and liquor within reach. His indulgence was interrupted by strategist Bai Han Chuan, who entered with the corpse of the young master. "City lord," Bai called, his tone grave. The city lord sat up, his indulgence forgotten. His eyes widened as Bai laid the bloodied body before him. "My son!" he cried, trembling as he cradled the corpse. Strategist Bai knelt silently, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, he unsheathed his sword, its purple aura crackling ominously. The city lord barely had time to react as Bai struck, the electrified blade slashing across his chest. Blood splattered, and the city lord stumbled but quickly recovered. You killed my son." Bai's voice was calm, almost pitying. "I did." The city lord lunged with a torch, demanding answers. Bai parried with ease, his strikes precise. "This era is one of chaos," Bai explained coldly. "The empire weakens, and the world cries for heroes. But you've grown fat and useless, drunk on wine and lust. Someone must take the throne." The city lord's fury boiled over. "You dare lecture me? I made you. Without me, you'd still be a woodcutter groveling in the dirt." They clashed fiercely, the room filling with the clamor of steel and the terrified whimpers of the young women. Bai's attacks were relentless, but the city lord's strength was formidable. "You're nothing but a dog," the city lord spat. "A frog in a well, blind to the world's depths." Both men screamed in rage, their final strikes colliding with thunderous force. Suddenly, a delicate hand emerged from the crowd of young women, holding back the city lord. He froze, stunned by the unexpected intervention. A young lady jabbed a pin into the city lord's side, prompting a sharp yelp as he spun around to glare at her. Strategist Bai wasted no time. With a swift thrust of his sword, he plunged it into the city lord's chest. Blood spilled dramatically as the city lord let out one final scream before crumpling to the floor, leaving Strategist Bai standing over him, sword dripping red. Bai stared down, knowing full well he wasn't cut out to be a great city lord, but he was determined to try anyway. As the city lord lay dying, he muttered about something black. Bai leaned closer, mocking him with a sardonic grin. "What's that? Your final riddle?" The city lord, through a wet cough, murmured about Black Rock City, calling it the kingdom's gateway. His warning was dire. If the Ring tribe breached it, chaos would engulf the world. This unexpected declaration rendered Bai momentarily speechless. He straightened up, leaving the flickering candlelight by the curtain as a quiet farewell. That night, the city lord's mansion burned to the ground. The warm rays of morning sunlight blanketed Toad Village's wheat fields, but the tranquility was broken by Zhu Xinji's incessant nagging. "Stop lounging around, master. We need to finish harvesting before the horses starve." A basket of wheat sat nearby, already raided by opportunistic birds. Chung Dali groaned theatrically, flopping against a rock. "I can't. I'm exhausted," he whined. Warrior Lin, drenched in sweat, muttered under his breath, unable to believe a warrior like himself was stuck doing farm chores. Meanwhile, Chung Dali gripped his stomach like a melodramatic actor. "My tummy hurts, Zhu Xinji." No energy left, but Xinji was immune to his antics, scolding the village master about sun-dried wheat snapping like brittle twigs if they delayed any further. Suddenly, a red beetle skittered across the field, bringing an idea as bright as its shell to Chung Dali's mind. "Wait, I haven't robbed anyone in days," he announced, springing to his feet with renewed vigor. Zhu Xinji blinked in disbelief as Chung Dali dashed off, Warrior Lin hot on his heels, leaving Xinji behind to fume. Deep in the Kanui Mountain, a father and his sons were trekking with bundles of firewood when one son nervously asked if there were bandits nearby. The father snorted, "If you're scared of bandits, forget about getting a wife. Their mission? Sell firewood, buy a donkey, and secure a bride for the eldest." "You should be dreaming of a horse," the father added. But his son argued that horses and donkeys weren't the same. Their bickering ended abruptly when Chung Dali and Warrior Lin leapt out from the trees. The family dropped to their knees in sheer terror, begging for mercy. Chung Dali raised an eyebrow. "Why are you kneeling? Stand up." The father explained their situation, prompting Chung Dali to laugh. "Well, aren't you lucky? I sell horses." He smirked, asking if they felt fortunate. The father nervously revealed their pitiful funds: 2 copper coins and 4 vegetable breads. Warrior Lin sampled one of the breads and declared it surprisingly tasty. Chung Dali, ever the opportunist, grinned. "We've got to sell these horses, Lin, or we'll end up eating them ourselves." He declared the deal of a lifetime, a horse for their meager offerings. Lin looked doubtful, but Chung Dali waved him off. "We're doing charity work today." Still trembling, the family followed Chung Dali up the mountain, despite fearing they were being led to their doom. At the stable, Chung Dali leaned casually against the doorframe. "Pick a horse. Quick now." The father hesitated, unsure if this was real. When they finally asked for 2 horses, Chung Dali scoffed. 2? Why not 3 for the kids? But the father admitted they couldn't afford to feed so many. Settling on 2, Chung Dali made a final offer. If they harvested his wheat field by sunset, the horses would be theirs. Under the blazing sun, the family got to work, scythes in hand, while Zhu Xinji berated Chung Dali for his laziness. Chung Dali lounged under a tree, sipping water, while Lin relaxed on a nearby cart. Despite Xinji's grumbles, Chung Dali mused happily. This place is like one big family. Kin Man's a beast, Lin's reliable, Ling Air's a hard-working sweetheart, and even Xinji's a grumpy grandpa. All I need now is a wife. Satisfied, Chung Dali watched the family toil away in the fields, feeling like the king of a little paradise. The son, still skeptical, leaned toward his father. "Do you think they'll really give us the horses?" His father, sweating nervously but attempting confidence, replied, "I think they mean it, but if we don't finish before sunset, they might just kill us instead." The sky blazed fiery orange as the sun dipped lower. Exhausted and hopeful, the poor villager hesitantly asked Chung Dali if they needed help grinding the wheat too. Chung Dali waved it off. "No need for that. Go on, pick your 2 horses." The trio Chung Dali, Zhu Xinji, and warrior Lin stood back, watching the family lead the horses away. The son couldn't contain his excitement. "Dad, pinch me. Are we dreaming? They're letting us take 2 horses." The father, wide-eyed and bewildered, muttered, "Bandits are good people. Who knew?" As the family vanished into the sunset, their voices drifted back, marveling at the generosity of these divine bandits who not only harvested wheat, but apparently ate wild vegetable bread. They were practically gods. Under a velvet night sky, lit by the ethereal glow of the full moon, Chung Dali, Zhu Xinji, and Kin Man sat around a crackling bonfire. Warrior Lin approached, bringing along a new visitor, a disheveled soldier who bowed awkwardly. Lin announced, "Village Master, someone's here to join us." Chung Dali scrutinized the visitor. "Wait a minute, isn't this that escort guy?" The man introduced himself as Commander Wang, recounting his tragic tale. After narrowly escaping death, he returned to Black Rock City only to find the city lord dead and strategist Bai Han Chuan slaughtering anyone remotely loyal to him. Fearful for his life, Wang fled toward Fallen Leaf City, where fate and Warrior Lin's robbery plans led him to Toad Village. Chung Dali raised a brow. "You're telling me Bai killed Han Huji and made himself city lord?" Wang nodded solemnly, adding that Bai was also spreading wild rumors, claiming Chung Dali was a bloodthirsty monster who ate human flesh and commanded 1,000 bandits. Chung Dali's jaw dropped. 1,000 bandits? Toad Village barely has 5 people, and he says I eat human flesh? How shameless. Wang continued. "He even put a bounty on your head." "How much?" Chung Dali asked eagerly. 50, Wang replied. Chung Dali's disappointment was palpable. 50? That's it. Zhu Xinji laughed when he learned his own bounty was 35. Kin Man shrugged at his own price of 30, grumbling that it was a pity he hadn't killed Han Huji himself. Chung Dali's irritation grew. 50 copper coins? They're looking down on me. He turned to Zhu Xinji. What's Gao Fei Hu worth? 180, Xinji replied, stifling a laugh. Chung Dali's eyes narrowed. I'll surpass that. Just you watch. Wang, desperate to join, pleaded his case. The system goddess popped up, describing him in her usual dramatic fashion. Wang Sanyuan, age 43, a slightly popular butler with no skills or hidden attributes, known as Butler Wang. Chung Dali smirked. You sure Toad Village is good enough for you? Wang nodded. Yes, sir. Why? Chung Dali pressed. Are you looking down on us? Even if we're small, each of us is worth 100 soldiers. Butler Wang, flustered, could only bow repeatedly. Zhu Xinji, ever the practical one, assured Wang that Chung Dali was strict but fair. Chung Dali, however, wasn't done. If you're serious, Write me a 5,000-word application letter explaining why you're worthy. Wang paled. 5,000? Are you trying to kill me? Show your sincerity, Chang Dali said, smirking. Panicked, Wang handed over a treasure map. Will this do? Chang Dali took it, intrigued. A treasure map, huh? What's the story? Wang explained that the map detailed locations where the city lord had hidden valuables decades ago during a bandit attack. The treasures had never been recovered, and the map was a prized possession. Chang Dali examined the map, noting the vague drawings of mountains and rivers. This is interesting, but you still need to prove your worth. We've got a crisis, and if you help solve it, you're in. Wang sighed. What do you need? Chang Dali grinned. We've got too many horses. They're becoming a burden. Wang suggested selling them to merchants in Fallen Leaf City or other bandit clans. Chang Dali clapped him on the back. Now that's smart thinking. Keep it up and you might just earn your place here. Shut it, or I'll unleash my thunder, he snapped, silencing the crowd. Butler Wang quickly reassured them. No tricks here. You can see the horse's movements behind the curtain. Who knows, you might get an amazing horse for a steal. The first auction began with a single bag of grain. The bandits hesitated, whispering among themselves, until a commanding female voice cut through the murmurs. I'll bid. A group of armed women rode up, led by a striking bandit with long blue hair. She raised her knife, glaring at the gawking men. 1 bag of beans. The men muttered appreciatively about her beauty, only to freeze when she snarled, Stop staring, or I'll dig your eyeballs out and feed them to the dogs. Butler Wang declared the Apricot Blossom Bandits the winners. Warrior Lin brought out the horse-stunning white steed. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the Flying Tiger Bandits recognized it as the horse they'd once tried to steal. White Wolf, the Apricot Blossom leader, smirked. She fished out her flyer and waved it triumphantly. This is good for a discount, right? Chang Dali, ever the gentleman, assured her she'd get her beans back. As she mounted her prize, her hair flowing like silk, she called to her sisters, Let's go! Zhu Xinji, entranced, muttered to Chang Dali, She's even cuter on horseback. Chang Dali, blushing furiously, could only nod. The crowd of bandits grew rowdier, demanding the next auction start quickly. Chang Dali, his confidence soaring, turned to Zhu Xinji. Tell me more about her. Xinji obliged, recounting White Wolf's tragic backstory of martial arts, betrayal, and vengeance. Chang Dali sighed wistfully. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? We need to make friends with the Apricot Blossom Bandits. A series of rapid knocks echoed through the village gate. The bandits stiffened. Are we being attacked? Someone whispered nervously. Gao Fei, who raised a brow. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's check it out, he said, leading his men to investigate. Outside the gate, the trees were plastered with dozens of posters. Meanwhile, one squinted at them. What's written on these things? He asked. The rest urged their leader, Gao Fei Hu, to read it out loud. The posters advertised horses for sale at Toad Village, boasting discounts below market value, with an additional 20% off if customers brought a flyer. Gao Fei Hu read the details with a calm demeanor, but his heart raced.